Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me in here. My name's Rob Caul. I'm CEO of Kallidus. Kallidus has been involved in learning technology solutions for 13 years now, and in that time, I've seen a huge amount of hype around mobile learning. Okay? But today's session is not about hype. The reality is mobile learning is here. We're already working with a number of customers that are successfully implementing mobile learning. Okay, so today I'm going to cover the compelling case for mobile learning. Going to touch on some of the trends and market research which you need to pay attention to. And then look at some of the key considerations for you to avoid disaster when implementing your mobile learning strategy. Then I'm going to look at a number of options on how you can create mobile learning. And I can guarantee one of those is free and that you'll be able to do it tomorrow when you get back to your desk. Okay, guarantee. We've had other people who've seen this presentation have gone away and produced some mobile learning the next day. Finally, once you've got your content, you now need to distribute to that learners, and there's a number of ways of doing that. So I'm going to cover some of the different ways that you can actually distribute mobile learning to your learners. And finally, at the end, if you have any questions, hopefully we'll have a bit of time for your questions at the end. Okay, so first off, how many people here are already doing some form of mobile learning? And by mobile learning, it could be a PDF on a BlackBerry to fully learning on tablet devices. How many, if you put your hands up, how many think you're doing? So maybe around about 10, 15, 20%. So roll the clock forward. In 2 years' time, how many of you will think you'll be doing mobile learning within your organization? Okay, so a lot more of you, maybe 70%. That ties actually into a recent survey. So recommend downloading this. It's freely available from Towards Maturity. But this year they did a recent benchmark survey that says over the next 2 years, 70% of organizations are looking to implement mobile learning. Okay? So a lot's going to be happening around this space in the next 2 years. The other thing that the report has in it is a number of benefits that organizations that have already implemented mobile learning, the business benefits they're starting to get. Okay, so well worth a read. Okay, so imagine a world where there are more smartphone devices than PCs. Okay, such a world is not so far away. Okay, how many of you here already have some sort of tablet device? Okay, so definitely more than half. So a lot of you had a lot of nice presents for your birthdays and Christmas and got tablet devices. Okay, right. How many of you are allowed to use your mobile device, your tablet device, within your organization? Okay, so fewer, maybe around about 30%. So a lot of you have a great device for accessing mobile learning, and a lot of you are able to use that in the workplace. This represents a huge untapped opportunity to increase learning within your organization. Okay, the mobile market is absolutely massive. In 2012, the number of smartphones sold increased by 40%. Between now and 2015, there's going to be 4 billion smartphones sold around the globe. The population of the globe is 6 billion, so it represents something like an 87% market penetration. In the UK alone, at this moment now, there's a 60% market penetration for smartphones. And if you look at people from the age of 25 to 44 who are working in our organization, that is around about 70% at the moment, okay? So, anyone have any thoughts in which year the number of smartphones sold will exceed the number of PCs sold? Anyone? If anyone can shout out above this. Go on. Any thoughts? This very close. It was actually in 2011. It's already happened. In 2011, number of smartphones is already outselling the number of PCs being sold. So very close. Okay, looking at tablets. In the US, 40 million tablets were sold within 2 years. Now, tablets are really important for mobile learning. Because of the screen size, it just makes the learner engagement much better. So that's why there's been a big uplift. Okay, this is great news for us. In 2015, 35% of tablet sales is going to be from the organizations that we work for. So they're going to be buying us nice new iPad 10s, 15, or whatever they will be then, or Samsung Galaxy 100. So they're going to be buying those for us. And this is more US focused, but from a recent survey, over 70% of employees were allowed to use their own personal device for working in the workplace. Okay. So the adoption of smartphone and tablet devices is a huge driver around mobile learning. But there's also some other drivers as well. 4G, super fast mobile. So we've seen the introduction of 4G, so connectivity, mobile connectivity has improved. 60% of a worker's day is now spent within range of a Wi-Fi network. So whether that be in the office or whether that be out in public, 60% of a worker's day is within Wi-Fi. Half our workforce is under the age of 35. So this tech-savvy audience are really hungry and have a huge appetite for learning on the go, learning on the move, and accessing information at any time. And finally, an important one is HTML5. With the introduction of HTML5, we now have a de facto standard for producing web content, e-learning, mobile content that will work across any device, whether that be smartphone, tablet, PC, or laptop. At the moment, most e-learning is produced using Flash. Flash does not work on Apple devices. Apple devices represent 60% of the smartphone and tablet device market. Okay, so HTML5 will allow you to create content accessible across any device. Okay, so mobile learning is here. It may take time for it to become the norm in your organization, but all content across any device is coming. Okay, so from our experience of working with other customers, there's some key considerations you need to think about when embarking on a mobile learning strategy. Okay, so the first one, you need to have a really clear business and good, strong business case for introducing mobile learning. So I like to think about the 5 W's and a H. So why are you doing it in the first place? Mobile learning is all very flash and whizzy, but what is the business problem you're trying to solve with mobile learning? What benefits are you looking to get from it? So the report Towards Maturity cited some of those benefits. They saw increased sales in organizations that were using mobile learning, and they saw increase in staff productivity compared to organizations that hadn't introduced mobile learning yet. So think about the benefit. Think about the who, your salespeople, your field engineers, doctors, nurses, executives. Think about the who in your organization are going to benefit from mobile learning. Okay? And then when and where are they going to access it? Is it going to be out of hours? Are they going to be in the move? Are they in the office? So think about when and where they're accessing it, and then how you're going to deliver that to them for them to access. Okay, need to understand the technology infrastructure you're working with. There are a huge number of different mobile devices out there. So which ones are you going to support? Which ones are being used within your organization? So you need to think about that. Does your organization already have a bring your own device policy in place? If so, what is it? Once you know your learners and the content that you're going to produce for them, then think about the authoring tools and maybe the service providers like Kallidus that might help you to develop the mobile content. Absolutely essential to get IT on board with you. You've got issues like Wi-Fi, network access, bandwidth, security, data protection, all those things you need to address and therefore you need to have your IT team on board. And then also think about support. If 70% of your staff are using their own personal devices, are you going to support those devices if they have a problem? So think about what you're going to support and how you're going to provide that support. Okay, and then finally on the pitfall side of things, it's really all about the content, okay? Technology is really important, but it will be the content that defines the success or failure of your mobile learning strategy, okay? The content needs to be succinct. It needs to have the end device in mind at all times, okay? But you've got a great opportunity. With touch screens, you've got a great opportunity to make your mobile learning interactive. I'll show you an example in a minute where it's drag and drop. So I'm drag and drop using my fingers. So think about how you can make the content more interactive, okay? And there's a huge difference between what's appropriate for a smartphone device and what's appropriate for a tablet device. Smartphones are very good for performance support, knowledge tests, audio tips, video tips, whereas the biggest screen for a tablet device gives you much more free range about what you can do. Okay, so that's some of the things to think about. I'm now going to look at 3 ways to create content, okay? The first one will get me shot by my fellow vendors because it's cheap as chips, okay? So I'm now going to show you how you can make content like this when you go back to the office tomorrow, okay? Now we're going off-piste, so bear with me. Okay. There we go. Well, that's first. Okay. So this is my iPhone 4S. So just open a piece of content on here. Now the great thing about this piece of content, it will work on all devices, even BlackBerries. And for some of those in your organizations where you rely a lot on BlackBerries, you'll know some of the challenges about getting content working across those devices. So this is probably a bit more traditional self-paced, so I can navigate through. It's important to make sure the button sizes are big when designing for a phone. If you're like me, it's a bit hard hitting them if they're not big enough. So I can navigate through, okay? This is probably not typical. What you'd probably do is you can build more interactivity into this. So I'm going to show you another live example. So come out of this. So this is an example that was created by, hang on a minute. Slight technical issue there. Right, okay, sorry about that. So this is something that was created by one of our customers, McIntyre Charity. They work with people with learning disabilities, got thousands of workers all over the UK. What they wanted was a performance support tool for common sign language. So a lot of their workers need to communicate in sign language, and this is a tool that a piece of content they produce that allows them to, remind themselves of common sign language. So one that's always close to my mind is hungry. So it shows them, it's like the terminology for hungry. If I go back, I can go back to dinner, etc. So it's a really nice piece of performance support. They don't have to be on the internet. They've got it wherever they go, okay? So any ideas about how this content was produced? Anyone? Go on. PDF, yeah, very close. That is a PDF. So, please, there we go. Okay, so what it is, it's been authored in PowerPoint. Okay, now I'm pretty sure most of you know how to use PowerPoint. So create the content in PowerPoint. I've used a custom page setup to actually get the size right. So in this case, for an iPhone, I've used portrait and those dimensions to create the content. I've then used hyperlinks and images to create the navigation and the interaction, and I've then saved as a PDF. So I'm going to just quickly show you how to do that. Okay, so here's the example that created earlier. So you can see 3 example pages. So within the Design tab, I can go to Page Setup and choose Custom, set Portrait, and put in my dimensions for the device I'm aiming for. So in this case, it's a smartphone device. I can create the interactions by hyperlinks. So here, just got a hyperlink to move to the next slide, but it can go anywhere within the content. And then what I do, as the good man suggested, is then I can save that down to PDF. So choose PDF, and it even gives me an option for minimizing the size if I want download size to be small. And that is it. I've now created a piece of mobile content that will work on an Apple, Android, and a BlackBerry. Okay, so there are organizations that have tried and tested a number of ways that are now using this as a successful way of creating content. Okay, at the end of the session, one of my colleagues will take your email to email you a guide on how to produce this. Okay, so if you give so let's move on to the next content. Okay, so pros and cons of that: easy and quick to produce, low cost. If you've got PowerPoint, you can start producing it. Works across a number of mobile devices. Really easy to distribute. You can email it to people. You can put a hyperlink, so very easy to distribute, and it works offline. So great for that. Need to size it to the target device, okay, to make sure buttons are the right size. It doesn't track results or progress, so it's not really good for compliance. Very basic interactivity and no tester scores, but it is great for performance support. Okay, the next way is to maybe use a rapid authoring tool that publishes to HTML5. Okay, so Kallidus is an authorized reseller of Articulate Storyline. Articulate Storyline allows you to put much more in the way of interactivity into your content. You can add tests, knowledge checks, and track information back to your LMS. You can even do software simulations. You can publish it to SCORM and publish it to HTML5. Okay? So I'm just going to show you an example of some content there. There we go. Should be doing a presentation now. Okay, so this has been created. This is running offline, by the way. So I'm just going to put in my name. So this is okay, so I've come into my piece of content here. I'm just going to move forward to show you a bit of a drag and drop exercise. So this is a standard authoring tool, so like you'll be able to pick up and use. And we can see an example of drag and drop here. So with my digit, I get to drag it across onto the screen. So opportunity for more interactivity. Unfortunately, my fingers are a bit sweaty. Okay, so I can do a drag and drop exercise using the templates within the tool. I can also go in and do a knowledge check as well, so I can build in questions. Okay, so that's an example of content that's been produced in Storyline that then publishes to HTML5. Okay, so advantage of that, still an easy to use authoring tool. Low cost, so typically Storyline is around about £800 to £900 for an authoring license. It publishes to HTML5, so it will work across your laptop, your PC, as well as your mobile devices. Okay? It's mainly for online delivery. There is some offline capability, and you can track progress and scores back to your LMS, and you can build in much more in the way of interactivity, questions and tests, okay? But you still need to have the target device in mind, and there is some restrictions to make the authoring tool more intuitive to use. There's more restrictions around the layouts and the interactions that you can use. Okay, but it's great for self-paced e-learning if you want to get something out quickly to tablet and PC devices. Okay, finally is to get someone to build a totally bespoke HTML5 course for you. So someone like Kallidus or someone else here can produce that for you. What that will do is give you much more flexibility around the look and feel of the course, give you much more flexibility around the interactivity and the instructional design that you want to build in. So you're not limited around how that exercise or scenario maybe works. Okay, so the other advantage is you can actually get it to detect the device that you're using, and it will automatically adapt to the screen. So this is an example that Kallidus has produced for one of its customers, and all 4 of these devices are accessing the same course. What the course does is detects whether it's a smartphone, a Samsung, an iPad, or a tablet device, and automatically reconfigures the layout of the content to suit that device. Okay, so that's one of the advantages of going down the bespoke route. Okay, so you've got all the advantages, as you would expect, all the advantages of doing something bespoke. The downside, of course, is the cost of getting someone to do it. So, but hopefully today I've shown you 3 ways bordering from high end to the low end. So this is great for high impact learn engagement where you want it to go to a smartphone or a PC or a tablet device. Okay, finally now that you've got your content, you've got to get it out to your learners, and there's a number of different ways to do that depending on the content. Okay, so the first one is email. Nice and simple and nice and easy to do. So ideal for the performance support PDF. So what we produced earlier, there's no need to do anything fancy in that. If you want to produce something that's accessible on a mobile device, just send it as an attachment or a link to download it from your intranet or from a website. No tracking or usage, so that's a downside of it, but not so important for performance support. And in the case, it can be stored on your device. So on an Apple device, I could store a PDF in my iBooks, okay? But there's the equivalent on Android devices. Okay, online, okay? As long as the content has been produced here, say in HTML5, and you have a good Wi-Fi connection, there's no reason why you cannot access mobile learning via online, okay? And it could even be via your LMS. So the Kallidus LMS is tested against tablet devices. So absolutely, in fact, that is a screenshot of the Kallidus LMS viewed by an iPad. Great thing about that is you're publishing the content once. So you're accessing the same content. The content is therefore always current. So it's not like you've got an offline version. And it tracks progress and scores automatically back to the LMS if you're doing it that way. Another way is to create your content as an app. Just as I can download and play Angry Birds on my phone, you could also create a piece of mobile learning as an app. Okay? It's not so straightforward to publish though. What you need to do is arrange to get that app up onto the App Store, or you need enterprise distribution. So it's a bit more complicated. It's not just push and play. And you may want to restrict who has access to that content. It may be sensitive material. So you might need to think about building in authentication, a username and password to check against. Okay? It's also completely bespoke as well. So, and you would have to produce one version for an Apple device and another totally different version for an Android or BlackBerry device as well. But it works offline, so I've got my Learning German app there that I've been trying to use when I get a chance. So that's just an app that I've downloaded from iTunes. Okay, and it could be made to post results back to the LMS. The final one, which Kallidus, I guess, believes is the optimum solution, is to have a mobile app that actually links to and integrates with your learning management system, that allows you to download multiple courses to that single app. Okay? The advantage of that is that you only have to put one app up onto an app store or enterprise distribution, and then you have one app to play all your courses. Okay? You're only publishing one version. So if you publish a SCORM 2004 course to Kallidus LMS in HTML5, I could access that online via a browser, via my laptop or PC, or I could download it to my iPad and play it offline. It's the same content, so you're not producing lots of different versions of content. Works offline, so when I get a connection, internet connection, it will post the results back to the LMS if it never had a connection in the first place. Supports the SCORM standards and tracks progress and scores back to the LMS, so you get the best of offline plus tracking capability. And it automatically authenticates against the LMS. It will use the same username and password, so the person will only be able to access content that's been made available to that individual. Okay, so just a quick demo of that, last demo. So here, I'm just going to come out of here. So here we can see on my iPad, I've got my Kallidus app. I can come into this now and see the two courses. So these are straightforward SCORM 2004 HTML5 that have been downloaded. I can see what's available. I've got nothing available because I'm offline at the moment. If I had an internet connection, it would show me the content I can download. But what I have done is downloaded some previous versions. So I'm just going to go into a piece of bespoke content now and come into this. So, and come into the example that we saw earlier. So this is offline now. This is the storyline example offline. And it's got all the tracking, and I can carry on from where I left off. So that's the Kallidus mobile app. Okay, so just to wrap up, mobile learning is here. There are organizations out there that are using it. You need to think about your overall approach. You need to think how to avoid some of the pitfalls. You need to think about what learning is appropriate for your learners, your mobile workers, and therefore how to produce that. Think about how you're going to produce that content, and think about how you're going to distribute it to your learners. In terms of Kallidus, we have an LMS that supports online delivery to tablet devices. We test against the latest tablet devices. We have an app for running content offline. We've helped organizations develop content in HTML5, so the example you saw there, the adaptive content. And we also provide training on how to use tools such as Storyline to create your mobile learning content. If you're interested in finding out more, my colleague Louise, waving there in the pink top on the Kallidus stand, if you want a copy of the PowerPoint to PDF guide, just give Lou your email address and she'll send you a copy of it. She's also got some white papers. So thank you for your time. Okay, any questions?